Fryslân is getting bilingual traffic signs for the first time. The West Frisian variety of Frisian is an official language of the Netherlands in the province of Fryslân, giving it equal status with Dutch. In reality though, especially out in public, written Dutch is found far more frequently than Frisian, and this, proponents say, is a step in the right direction. But is it? Others worry about the cost. And what about safety? Won't non-Frisian tourists get horribly lost? Or will having two languages on road signs cause accidents? Well, let's take a look. The change will take place in 2026, when all the traffic signs will be renewed. It comes as part of several recent agreements between the national and the provincial government on the status of the Frisian language. Only signs alongside the regional, provincial roads and not on big motorways will be affected, at least for now.
Ik ben Tjitte Hemstra, ik ben uitvinder in het Duitse leven en ik ben stedenlid voor de Fryske Nasjonale Partij in de provincie van Friesland. FNP heeft als speerpunt Friese taal en cultuur. En daarin staan we altijd heel erg sterk voor het Fries. En zeker dat het Fries zichtbaar is. Van daaruit is het toen zo van, nadat zichtbaar werden van de Fries, matten er steeds meer stiepje. En zeker in verkeersboer.
Currently, the signs will be for things like cycle path and turn your lights on. So, not major changes. Whenever a government decides to add a minority language to traffic signs, whether it's Cymraeg in Wales or Te Reo Māori in New Zealand, there's a backlash. Even from inside these communities, it's often questioned whether this is where resources to helping minority languages should go. People outside the communities where the language is spoken worry about the terrible financial burden, or this causing confusion and even accidents. So, will this lead to the greatest loss of Dutch life in Fryslân since Grutte Pier's prisoners couldn't pronounce green cheese? The available evidence says no, not exactly, but there are some angles to consider. First, let's just get the financial argument out of the way. HR Group, which specialises in road signage in the Netherlands, estimated it would cost around €420,000 to make this change. Now that sounds like a lot, but look at it this way. Given there are around 415,000 Frisian speakers just in Fryslân, it would cost each a grand total of about €1. €1. And that's only if Frisian speakers paid.
I am never going to financially recover from this.
Given the Netherlands government revenue in 2023 was €457 billion, based on that, the figure that to change Fryslân's road signs is, and this is rounded up, 0.0001% of annual government revenue. This also ignores the fact that the old road signs won't be wasted, but will be sent to other solely Dutch-speaking provinces to replace old signs or accompany new infrastructure being built. Okay, but what about safety? Bilingual signs in themselves don't cause accidents, but having signs of more than 4 lines in length has been shown to slow drivers' reaction times, which can lead to accidents. Now, it doesn't matter if these lines are in one language or in two. A sign with 4 or more lines slows reaction time. In the case of multiple languages, the effect is felt more when the languages use the same script, which Frisian and Dutch do. However, by font size, type, or colours, it helps the brain to differentiate each language and just focus on one, rather than trying to read all of the sign, which causes the delay in the first place. The majority of road signs being considered for Fryslân are just one line, so bilingual signage, for the most part, wouldn't suffer from this problem anyway. Eke Volkerts, the Minister for Language and Education in the Frisian Provisional Government, noted how they'd learnt from other countries with minority languages on their traffic signs. She said, "We hebben gelijks actie naar de situatie in Schotland. Daar is nou verkam dat het beter is om alle woorden in één keer te vervangen." We looked, for example, at the situation in Scotland. They found that changing all the traffic signs at once was better, and we will do the same. A 2012 study commissioned by Transport Scotland, where road signs are increasingly bilingual English, Scottish, Gaelic, they found there was no increase or decrease in accident rates in areas with 2 languages on their traffic signs.
altijd on de FNP leidt, ja, dan wordt het alleen nog maar meer Frieske broeken in onze omjouwing. Ja, zeker. Ja. En als het juist dat we dus nou in dit verliezen als elke keer om de safel hier toch weer iets valkoor kennen krijgen. Ja, dan hebben we dus zeker ook mooi het waande. Want die nog laatst dat een collega van mij die riede hoe de aansluit diek. Nou, en daar kwam het toen ik alweer Nederlands bondje, maar dat maat Fries wezen. En daar hebben dus ik de vragen hoe het stelt. Ja.
En
dat viel wel.
Ja, wees. This has been done successfully in Ireland, where bilingual road signs have been in place since 1920. And that's the case for all signage in Ireland, whether it's telling you about a diversion on a country lane or the next exit off the motorway. Everything is in both English and in Irish. There, the choice to implement most Irish signage in Irish script helps differentiate the English and Irish for drivers, overcoming the four-line problem. A spokesperson for the Republic of Ireland's Department of Transport stated, "The system is well understood by the driving public, either resident or visitor, and no complaints are received regarding clarity or difficulty in reading text in either language." So, if Ireland can and has done it since 1920, over 100 years, and tourists aren't continually getting hopelessly lost by reading Irish names a few centimetres above the English ones, what's stopping Fryslân?
Een heel soort van die Nederlanders, nou ja, die kennen heel vaak hoe de Duitse grens. Nou, daar rijden ze zeg ik prima. Of ze gaan zelfs nog volg je er op vakantie, nou, dan rijden ze zeggen ik altijd. Dus als ze dan naar Friesland komen en dan zitten ze een keer in het Friesk, nou dan ben ik er net benauwd voordat het dan voor een dagelijks missel gaat.
This discussion often has as much to do with the underlying politics and status of a language as with the surface concerns of safety, practicality, and money. For centuries, the status of Irish was undermined by the British, with it being made illegal to speak in court even if the defendant couldn't speak English. As a result, Irish was banned in schools. And this was often at the instigation of Irish parents, who internalised the negative attitudes towards the language as being one of uncivilised and uneducated people. With increased interest and pride in Irish culture in the second half of the 19th century, the Gaelic revival became closely tied with the republican efforts of Pádraig Mac Piarais, or Patrick Pearse, one of the leaders of the 1916 Dublin Rising. When Ireland achieved its independence after years of struggle, Irish became not only an official language, but the first official language recognised by the Constitution. While the vast majority of Ireland's population are not proficient in the language, 73% nonetheless believe that Irish is essential to Irish identity, with over half wanting more advertising in Irish. And by the way, the vast majority of Irish people regret not speaking better Irish and would like to learn better Irish. But get this, around 40% of the Republic of Ireland said in 2022 that they had some ability to speak Irish. In Fryslân, 74% of the population can speak Frisian, and that's pretty fluently. In terms of native speakers, 55% of Fryslân has Frisian as their first language. In Ireland, it's probably around 1.5%. Remember, in Ireland, every traffic sign is bilingual.
Ik denk dat er zeker ongevaar is. Ja, en maak ik me absoluut geen zware genoegen, want dat zou je krijg ik als ik dus een brief of een pakketje of zoiets krijg. En ik vul dan in dat ik Bigelix op de lege dik ben in het Friesk. Of ik dus een insteek van rode huizen. Het komt altijd goed om. Dus ja, dat moet zeker slagen. Ja, voor mensen die van buiten Friesland komen, denk ik dat het iets hartstikke moois cultureels is. En ik denk voor die mensen die hier wonen en die dan zelf net Fries spreken. Ja, wat ik zie is, dat went heel erg rap. En die mensen, wat ik eerder al zei, die gaan ik gewoon op vakantie naar Duitsland, Frankrijk, etc. Daar rijden die mensen haar ik. Dus dan moet het hier ik slagen.
The reason Frisian ever became an official language is because until 1951 it was also impossible for Frisians to speak their language in court. It's only when a riot broke out following the court cases of several Frisians for speaking or using their language at the wrong time, including writing the words milk and buttermilk on a milk can and addressing a judge, that the Dutch government feared prolonged unrest and perhaps even civil war and lifted several restrictions on the Frisian language. Despite this, the same ingrained attitudes from centuries of having Dutch forced upon them as a superior language and Frisian being relegated to unofficial spheres, as was the case in Ireland, are still evident. The Dutch government has certainly done a lot since then to rectify some of its past wrongs. This comes in the form of official recognition of Frisian and financial assistance. It's much harder to change perceptions and underlying attitudes towards the language, one of the key factors determining whether minority languages are passed on and spoken.
Nou, als het juist in het verrieden wie er helemaal geen Frieske boeren en toen op een gegeven moment ben er wel Frieske boeren bij kwamen, saus, plakken, naamkunstwerken, wettergang, etc. Nou ben we hier verder en nou is dit voor u altijd u zo als FNP om lang het weer een stap verder, maar als maait om is nog wel verder en maar er nog wel vol meer Friesk. En dan moet je hoe meer boeren, hoe beter op lange termijn. Dus zeker.
In neighbouring Belgium, different areas have signs in a combination of French, Dutch and German, sometimes more than one. A study by the Brussels Institute for Applied Linguistics into whether changing all signs into monolingual English ones found that traffic signs actually conveyed an important message about language status and decided against changing.
Nou, heel kwaad zijn had de mensen binnen die CCVA het universeel, want ik ken iedereen het lezen zoals Hollanders ik. Ja, dan zou ik zeggen, maak je dan direct alles of Engels of gewoon Esperanto, want dan kan Els niet op de wereld het te lezen en laten we dan direct zeker alle boeren in de rest van Nederland maken. Dat is een beetje meer kwaad antwoord erop. Ja.
This could be especially significant for Fryslân, given that while over half of the population speak Frisian at home, only 42% of those said that they could write Frisian very well or well. Seeing more written Frisian, especially in an official setting like a road sign placed by the government, can convey the message that Frisian is also a written language and no longer relegated to being spoken at home as it was for much of the recent past. Het is geen symboolpolitiek. Het is wichtig om het Fries zichtbaar te maken. It's not just the politics of symbolism. This is important to make Frisian more visible. That was Arno Brok, the commissioner of the king or head of the provincial government. He added that not everything had been finalized yet. Some of the translations of the Dutch road signs had yet to get good Frisian equivalents. For instance, the command ontsteek uw lichten, that translates literally to kindle or ignite your lamps, goes back to the early days of the automobile when gas lamps were used which had to be lit manually. A Frisian translation gives planners a chance to modernize this a little. Doch die lampen on has been suggested. Personally, I quite like the old formality, so perhaps jo lampen on uses the formal you and may also be nearly understandable for our Anglophone tourists. So that's two birds with one stone, if you ask me. Frisian speakers in the comments, let me know what you think the Frisian version of ontsteek uw lichten should be, and tell me your view on Frisian being added. Should it be extended to all road signage in Friesland, as is the case in Ireland? Should that include the motorway too? Or is this a waste of money and we should look to spending our efforts for revitalization in other areas that are lacking?
Ja, dan zou ik Bigelix wel kunnen zeggen. Wij hebben best wel een stabiele achterban en we houden ons altijd toch nog wel een aardig zwikje neusje zitten. En als je het wil dat het vertuten doet, dat het jaren efter jaren, als je daar zit en je mooi praat, dat je dan dus dit soort uitslagen krijgt. Dus dat mensen het Fries gewichtig vinden. Ja, vooral op je stem blowen, want het nota dat het altijd vertuten zoek zitten. Ja. En dan is dit dus wel het stemresultaat, want de commissaris van de koningssite, ik altijd bij uw heegste macht, dat binnen altijd uw kiezers in Friesland. En dat is ik zo.
I'd be very interested to see your opinions on this. Well, until the next time, ik ben Hilbert en dit weer het Friesk. Onzien.